Back with the DNC convention, night 2.
Let's dig a little deeper on what to expect. We're joined by our KTLA 5 panel of political analysts, political consultant Matt Klink, civil rights attorney and policy advisor Sonia Diaz, and Dakota communications consultant Kerman Maddox. And let's start with you, Sonia. We've got AOC on deck, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. Everybody's been talking about how she's only got 1 minute to deliver her message. But do you think that that might actually be strategy by the DNC? Considering the medium today is to retweet, TikTok, whatever it might be, just a 1 minute video versus something like Michelle Obama's speech last night, which ran nearly 18 minutes?
Absolutely, there's strategy involved. Whether or not it's to reduce the representative from New York to 60 seconds for TikTok purposes is likely not the case. We know that tonight is about the Democratic National Committee conveying who Biden is and what he represents. We're going to see that from Dr. Jill Biden. We're going to see that from two former presidents, one of whom is still the 5th most popular Democrat in the country. And I'll note that the convention tonight started with a montage of up-and-coming stars, all of whom endorsed Biden, including two, one of whom got a lot of support from our revolution in the South. And then another represents a state senator, Ivania Cancela, the first Latina ever elected to the Nevada state's legislature, early Biden endorser, even though Latinos in the state of Nevada caucused in favor of Bernie Sanders. So this is not about AOC. It's about thinking about who the DNC wants to convey. That's a nice foil to President Trump's message that Biden is liberal and left and really trying to attack that line of inquiry and of criticism.
Kerman, to you, Dr. Jill Biden speaking tonight. Joe Biden's wife of more than 4 decades, speaking tonight from Brandywine High School in Wilmington, Delaware, where she taught English in the 1990s. What do you expect to hear from Dr. Biden tonight, a woman who knows Joe Biden better than anyone else?
Oh, absolutely. And what she will do is she will speak about the strength of Joe Biden, his character, his empathy. Joe Biden exudes empathy. Joe Biden is the guy who cares about people like you and I. So I think you're going to hear her talk about he has the ability to unite the party, unite the nation, because he's obviously had his share of tragedies. And one thing people do know about Joe Biden is they like him. He cares about people. He certainly exudes that. And I think she's going to be a character witness to make sure the nation knows how he's overcome his own personal tragedies and how he was able to unite the family and bring people together. In a time like this, where the nation is so divided, I think she'll make the case he is the one person who can bring people together and unite this country, and frankly, lead us a better 4 years ahead. And I just got to add, when President Trump accuses Michelle Obama of being divisive, I just have to laugh at that. This is the most divisive person we've ever had in the White House, and accusing Michelle Obama's speech last night of being divisive is just hilarious.
Over to you, Matt. Let's talk about former President Bill Clinton's taking the stage tonight, one of 2 former presidents speaking. What do we expect from him? We're hearing probably the harshest rebuke of President Trump to come out from him tonight. But do you think that he was a good choice to speak on behalf of Biden?
Well, you really have no choice. He has to speak. He's a former president. But you're looking at a Democratic Party that has largely moved significantly to the left of where Bill Clinton was when he was president in the early 1990s through 2000. I mean, he passed the crime bill, which Joe Biden, when he was chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, led through Congress, that people like AOC and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have now heaped a bunch of criticism on. We know of Bill Clinton's problems with women. Again, out of step with where the current Democratic Party is right now, but they really had no choice. And the question is, will Bill Clinton attest to Joe Biden's strength of personality and resilience? I think that's probably where he's going to go. He's probably going to stay away from policy because there is no middle or third way anymore in the Democratic Party. This is a much more progressive Democratic Party today than it was when he ran it.
Arguably the greatest orator of the latter half of the 20th century in the Democratic Party,
Absolutely.
Bill Clinton. Can he break through tonight? We'll see. To the panel, thank you. We'll be back with you next half hour. Back with our coverage of DNC Night 2, a deeper dive into the second night of the convention, joined again by our KTLA 5 panel of political analysts, Matt Klink, political consultant, civil rights attorney and policy advisor Sonia Diaz, and political policy expert Kerman Maddox. I think all three of you, in a word, shocked. We just heard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez given 60 seconds at this Democratic convention to speak, and in the last 5 seconds of it, a tailor-made moment to go viral, nominating Bernie Sanders. Kerman, to you first, your reaction.
Yeah, I was shocked. And let me see, now we understand why the Biden campaign only wanted to give her 60 seconds. She clearly can't be trusted. So up to this point, Micah, everybody was on script. The convention was united. And now that 5-second clip from AOC is going to go viral. And that's all everybody's going to talk about tonight and tomorrow. So it detracts from all the messages and all the speeches that everybody else talked about. I think it was horrible judgment. I have no idea what she expects to get out of it. And I'm sure the Biden campaign is furious right now.
In an effort to try and unite, Sonia, it appears this may well divide. How do you respond to this if you're the party's leader?
It's a symbolic endorsement. This is a convention, albeit a digital one. This is important to have up-and-coming leaders. Tonight is about leadership. We've seen through the speakers thus far to really focus on the party's past. And that seems tailor-made for a persuasion game that is looking at the Midwest and not at the South, the Southeast, or millennials and young voters of color. So if they are in fact talking about AOC, I think that's ultimately good for the party, because one can imagine that that means that they're not going to be supporting Trump. Again, 60 seconds, and AOC didn't have a central role in the discussion about Joe Biden. And this is how she yielded her time. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Matt Klink, to you, 60 seconds. We all sat here and scratched our heads in the days leading up to this convention. Not a lot of time. What can she really say that may or may not stick? Turns out she only needed 5 seconds.
Absolutely. And it's symbolically symbolized the significant divide within the Democratic Party from the progressive left and the moderates in the Democratic Party. I mean, last night you had Republican John Kasich talking about Joe Biden's going to adhere to the middle of the road. And then you had Bernie Sanders, a socialist, come on and say, Joe Biden has been influenced by my policies and my views are now mainstream. That's the push and the pull that the Democrats have to resolve in this primary season. And Joe Biden is desperately trying to get back to the middle. And AOC in 5 seconds did some damage to that tonight, and they will be talking about it tomorrow.
The light just got a little brighter and a little hotter on the Joe Biden ticket tonight, and how they react and respond to this, if and when they do. Our panel, thanks to you as always. We'll see you again as our coverage continues throughout the night here, the DNC Night 2. Back with more in a moment.
Welcome back. Night 2 of the Democratic National Convention wrapped up just minutes ago, so let's take a deeper dive into it.
We are joined by our KTLA 5 panel of political analysts, political consultant Matt Klink, civil rights attorney and policy advisor Sonia Diaz, and Dakota communications consultant Kerman Maddox. Good of you all to stay with us. Kerman, let me start with you. Your initial thoughts, what you saw tonight.
So tonight didn't have the powerhouse speeches of Michelle Obama and Bernie Sanders, but I thought they had a lot of touching moments. I got to tell you, I really enjoyed the video of Dr. Jill Biden. I didn't know much about her background and her history. And as I was telling Matt, I'm just a sucker for a good love story, and they clearly love each other. She was a great character witness for him. She talked about his strengths, his leadership, his compassion, how he brings people together. I really like that. And another moment that really touched me was the video where they highlighted the individual struggles with healthcare. Everybody had a story. It was touching, and it clearly painted a picture of the differences on healthcare between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And the last thing is Bill Clinton. I thought former President Bill Clinton was good. He's been in the White House. He understands the pressure, demands, and he knows that words matter in leadership. And I thought he made a great case for Joe Biden, and also a good case against Donald Trump. So those were the highlights for me tonight.
You know, one of the most outspoken, progressive, and youngest members of Congress making a bombshell. We want to go to this highlight of her 60-second speech from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Take a listen.
In a time when millions of people in the United States are looking for deep, systemic solutions to our crises of mass evictions, unemployment, and lack of health care, en el espíritu del pueblo and out of a love for all people, I hereby second the nomination of Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont for President of the United States of America.
So a little after 6:30 this evening, I could hear the shock from all three of our analysts. We'll start with you, Mr. Matt Klink. What did you think about that bombshell that she dropped in the last 5 seconds of her 60-second allotted time to speak at the DNC?
So the symbolic value was greater than the actual effect that it will ultimately have. It's part of the convention. They do put both candidates that have votes into nomination. But that being said, she didn't mention Joe Biden's name in her 1 minute speech. She spent a lot of time focusing on the progressive agenda that she and members of the so-called squad and Bernie Sanders are really pushing Joe Biden further to the left, that Bernie said is now considered acceptable and mainstream in the Democratic Party. So it's very clear that the progressives, they expect Joe Biden to deliver if he is elected. And she's laying down that marker in very, very unsubtle terms. So again, symbolically means nothing. Joe Biden ultimately got the votes he needed, but it highlights that they are not going to sink quietly into the night if Joe Biden becomes America's president.
Sonia, do you agree?
Look, this is just part of the convention, like I mentioned earlier. She had to second the nomination. She was a surrogate for Bernie and vice versa through her short time in Congress, which I believe is going to continue to be a storied career. Her and her colleagues in the House are diverse. They represent very important urban areas in this country and are some of the hardest hit, not just economically, but because of the coronavirus pandemic. Tonight was about going back to normal, which is really odd because one of the things that was very clear is that nobody wants to go back to a normal where people are homeless, where people don't have access to health care, where people are sent away to wars without knowing when they're going to see their friends and family again. And so to the extent that Representative Ocasio-Cortez added anything, it was actually 60 seconds of a platform and a policy that we saw a lot of yesterday. Today was really providing this holistic view that 4 more years of Trump is not good for anybody and that the answer is Joe Biden.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break here and dive a little bit deeper on the other side of this. We've got still a lot to talk about, including what former President Bill Clinton said. Back in a moment.
COVID hit us much harder than it had to. We have just 4% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's COVID cases. Our unemployment rate is more than twice as high as South Korea's, 2.5 times the United Kingdom's, more than 3 times Japan's. Donald Trump says we're leading the world. Well, we are the only major industrial economy to have its unemployment rate tripled.
Former President Bill Clinton, if there's anyone capable within the Democratic Party of convincing the voters, it is President Bill Clinton, one of 4 former presidents still alive tonight. As we welcome back the panel, Matt Klink, to you. Did President Clinton, as we all know what he's capable of doing, did he make the connection there?
He gave a great speech. He is as good as anybody at writing and delivering quality speeches. And the words flowed off his tongue like he was a candidate back in 92 and 96. He was excellent. It's when he's unscripted that he has some issues, but no, he made the point and he made the case against Donald Trump, and he contrasted that very sharply with the person that is Joe Biden, which is what he needed to do tonight.
A lot about policy from Clinton in his speech and talking about how the Democrats are trying to unite and not divide, building America back again, and about blacks, Latinos, and women and other groups as well. Sonia, talk to me about what your analysis is about what he said about those groups of people, and does he actually hit the mark, especially with women, considering his history?
Look, one of the things that I think is important to note is that most Democratic voters still think very favorably of President Clinton. And what's important is that President Clinton's remarks today and Senator Sanders' remarks yesterday were very policy heavy. It wasn't the character, the empathy, the decency that we've been hearing through other vignettes and other speakers. Today, it was about leadership, and it was also a little bit about President Trump not being able to do the job. And that's clear. It's persuasive from someone who had the job for 8 years. In terms of the demographic outreach, look, President Clinton had a strong rapport and still has a strong rapport with Black Americans. In terms of the 2016 presidential cycle and the way in which Secretary Hillary Clinton was able to pull votes from Black women, they were higher than with President Obama in 2012, and even Latino voters who overwhelmingly supported Secretary Clinton. President Clinton is right to think through the diversity and the gender issue. Diversity because that's the future of the country. The gender issue is because that's what we need to move forward as we're dealing with the coronavirus, where kids and our mature Americans are dying.
All right, our panel stand by. We'll be back with more coverage after this short break. Stay with us.